Well, we're going to do two essays about Cy Tombury. This one is about his sculpture, about his sculpture. And on Wednesday, we're going to read another essay about his painting. And I think this essay is fascinating because if you read the two essays carefully, you can understand a major part of the modernist and postmodernist painting, actually. So many artists appear in these two essays. And in order to understand Cy Tombury's sculpture, you have to know Giacometti's sculpture. It's revolutionary. When Giacometti was young, he was an ordinary artist. And suddenly, he changed his style. And it becomes what Giacometti is. His sculpture is it's like a stick. On a piece of stick, he sculpted. Surprisingly, you can recognize the face, the characters of a person. Very, very interesting. We have never seen this kind of sculpture in the history of art. So he just started a new trend in art. And if you understand Giacometti, you can understand Cy Tombury's sculpture. And I'm going to show you a picture by Cy Tombury. And it's a white sculpture, and I don't think you have ever seen it. And I'll show you the sculpture. Unfortunately, if you go to the Wikipedia entry, there is no picture, just essay. Probably, I don't know. You can find Tombury's sculpture somewhere, but in the essay itself, does not contain the illustrations in it. Very strange. And I only found one sculpture. He talked about several sculptures in the essay, but I find just one. I bought this book, The Essential Cy Tombury. I spent a lot of money on it. Okay, I'll show you the sculpture. We are going to read about the essay, and the essay, there's a discussion of this particular sculpture. What do you think? This is a beautiful sculpture. Have you ever seen this sculpture in your life, in your whole life? Never, right? Never. And the title is Winter's Passage, Luxor, 1985. And it's made of, okay. Like this. Made of wood, nails, white paint, paper, glass, traces copper sculpture. The dimension is very big, 54 by 200 by 52 centimeters. What do you feel? No feeling at all? Nothing? You don't feel anything, right? It's a stick, just stick, right? This is stick, right? Stick. What is it? Looks like what? No reaction at all. So, art is what? Artwork. It's a social, it's a part of education, right? People are educated. People learn to understand art, right? So this is a process. If you want to understand modern art, you have to know the progress, the history of the arts. Unless you know, you can't understand it. This one is what? Just stick, right? But David Sylvester sees it as a human figure, right? It looks like a human, no? If you look at the Giacometti, you'll understand it. Giacometti's sculpture, humans look like this. Right? For example, there's hand here, body, and legs, and it looks like what? Usually Giacometti's sculpture, this is concave, but usually in Giacometti's sculpture, it's straight like this. And Sylvester sees it as a boat ship, and human. And his explication of the sculpture is fascinating. We'll go to the essay, right? Okay, page 499, Twombly 2. And on Wednesday, we are going to read the first essay, Twombly 1. And this one, a bit difficult to understand. Right? This version of the introduction, entitled The World is Light, a catalog of the exhibition. Usually, a catalog is of the exhibition entitled Cy Twombly, 10 Sculptures at the Gagosian Gallery, Madison Avenue, 5th November to 20th December 1997, incorporates paragraph. The one beginning of the frequent echoes from a review article entitled The White Originals of the exhibition. Cy Twombly, the sculpture at the Kunstmuseum Basel, published in Art in America for July 2000. Art in America is the art magazine, very famous in America. And this article was published in this magazine. So actually, the two essays are almost the same. Light clings to great sculpture rather as the fog in Prufrock curves about the house. Prufrock? What is Prufrock? T.S. Eliot's poem, Prufrock. As the fog in Prufrock curves about the house. Not quite like that. It is similar, but not exactly. The house is passive and the fog allowed to move in and take possession. Sculpture is active, so it's different. It's different from a house. The sculpture breathes light. Sculpture breathes light. When I put that metaphor to Twombly, he took it for granted that I was talking about antique carvings in marble. The image had in fact come to mind as I was looking at bronzes of his own, with the feeling that light, while lingering over their surfaces, was also getting under their skin. Actually, his paintings too often induce the sensation that they are breathing light, an experience less common in looking at painting than at sculpture. But when I'm enraptured, to use a loose canon of word about but meaning it, by one of Twombly's paintings and ask myself why this is happening, the answer is usually that light appears to have become a substance. The reason why he paints his sculptures white, now you can understand. The interplay of the light with the sculpture and with the atmosphere, light. If you paint it black, it's very difficult to understand the light, the working of light on and beneath the sculpture, right? So, Jean Genet's book on Giacometti, another revolutionary sculptor, Giacometti, recalls an account the artist gave him of the unnerving impression he had one day that every object in his room was somehow separate and weightless. Le monde était léger. This translated to English as the world was light. But the English can be translated in two ways. Either describes a Twombly. The sort of elation that the Twombly sculpture, Twombly induces reminds me even more than Pollock does of the impact of a Fragonard. Fantastic. Do you know Fragonard? Fragonard is a painter, Rococo painter. One of his most famous paintings is the depiction of a woman riding a seesaw, riding a swing, and her shoes are in the air, right, thrown off, and it stays. It's a painting, and the shoe is in the air, right? So it's a depiction of pleasure, right? A very light Rococo art, right? The scene is ethereal, right? The scene is ethereal, airy, ethereal, intoxicating, edgy, sexy, polished. Fragonard, right? The characteristic of Fragonard. Twombly told me that one of the first artists he had admired had been Soutine. Do you know Soutine? A Jewish painter. He was very poor, and one day he went to a butchery and wanted to buy a big chunk of pork, right, ribs and everything, and it's a skinny one, and the owner thought that you are so poor. Okay, I'll give you a big one with lots of meat on it, and he got angry. Give me that. And he didn't want to eat it. He wanted to paint it. He was so hungry. Very interesting. And he uses a rather red color red, right? Soutine, and showed me the copy of volume of plates that he had bought shortly after his publication in 1945. So Twombly had bought a book of Soutine's painting. He kept it a long time ago, and in going through it, I found very few of those landscapes with surging headlong trees and houses that Soutine painted this area around 1920. If you look at paintings, everything is swept by the wind, right? Everything is in motion. And if you look at the Soutine's landscapes, everything is in motion. Houses, trees, and everything, right? Serre around 1920, and this impelled me to express certain surprise that he had been so excited, despite the lack of the sort of Soutines I imagined would appeal to him most, as they did to de Kooning and Bacon. We're going to read, probably the last essay we're going to read is Francis Bacon, probably the most difficult painting he did, right, for us. He replied that, on the contrary, what had appealed to him were the portraits, not the landscape, portraits with their shiver of personal anxiety. He had liked them for much the same reasons as he had liked German. Actually, I'm talking about German expressionism, and probably after Cy Twombly, we are going to read an essay. It's by me. I did the essay, and we are going to read the essay about Jack Yates. Jack Yates is probably underrated, very much underrated, but he deserved to be among the greatest painters. And okay, how do such predilections square with the comparison? I've made Fragonard. I feel they are not irreconcilable, and that this is the very measure of Twombly's greatness. Twombly's pictures at best transmit an extreme delight in existence and a acute desperation. Of course, there are intimations of pain and loss. And Fragonard, as much as Mozart, is a case in point in art that conveys high pleasure, but Twombly's art has a rare intensity of ambivalence. A rare intensity of ambivalence. As though his sensibility had several skins less than the norm, which means that when looking at the work, it sets the teeth on edge as it uplifts. His paradigm for the art, he says, is the boy in D.H. Lawrence's story, The Rocking Horse Winner. The boy's ambition makes him a prisoner who, from time to time, has a spectacular win at the races through an inspiration which he induces by charging madly into space on his rocking horse. When the mania and tension have killed him, somebody says, poor devil, he is best gone out of life where he rides his rocking horse to find the winner. I really enjoy doing sculpture, but maybe it's because of the construction thing. He made many pieces, mostly lost between 1946 and 1959, made no more until 1976, has not stopped since. The pieces are generally made up of two antithetic elements, found objects. Artists try to get things and use them when they sculpt or paint, which are finished forms, and clay and plaster, which has not started to take form. The found objects may be organic, such as stick, a flower, piece of palm leaf. I say they are finished forms, but they are often fragments, or maybe something manufactured, such as a cardboard box or a pot of wooden crate. The clay or plaster may be used as a binder or filler as a substantial mass. The elements tend to be firmly synthesized, bound into a unified construction rather than presented in ways that call attention to their being assemblies of discrete things. This is artwork, right? Twombly reinforces that unity by painting the original pieces white all over. Maybe for another reason, another reason is light, right? Light. Playing upon and finish the work. And also by having some of them cast in bronze. Always in Italy, where the foundries produce those inimitable ciocchi plus satini patinas. Bronze unifies the thing. It abstracts the forms from the material. People want to know about what the material constituents are. It helps them to identify the work with something, but I want each sculpture to be seen as a whole, as a sculpture. This is a quote from Twombly, right? This is what Twombly says. They mostly divide into 6 basic types, which can be crudely described as follows. 1, upright tablets, right? Upright tablets, often combined with a pliable substance such as clay or fabric, or another kind of sculpture is a mound of inchoate matter with small organic shapes projecting from it slightly or considerably. The third kind is a long, upright, pointing form with a geometric and roughly symmetrical structure. Fourth kind, asymmetrical, upright, pointing organic form like a stalk with accretions. Fifth, roughly symmetrical horizontal construction. Sixth, a horizontal construction which is basically symmetrical but deviates conspicuously. One good definition of art from a 20th century viewpoint has been Paul Coulet. You know Paul Coulet? He's a new artist, Paul Coulet, right? Complete seems to me an artist for whom it is especially valued. Artistic creation, says Coulet, is analogous to the growth of a tree. Good analogy. Artwork is like the growth of a tree, right? The artist, observing the world around him, discovers in the passing stream of images and experiences a sense of order and direction. This corresponds to the tree's roots. The sap, water, from the roots flows through the artist, the tree's length to the eye, and the force of the flow impels him to form the tree's crown, the work of art. Good metaphor, good analogy, right? The crown does not reflect the appearance of the roots existing in a different element. It has to have its own kind of form. The artist's role is to gather and pass on what comes to him from the depth. He is there neither to serve nor to rule, but to transmit. The idea is what? It's like T.S. Eliot's idea of poetry. Poet is just a medium through which inspiration goes through it, right? Poet is nothing but a medium. So he is not creating, but poet is just medium like this, right? In Renaissance and Baroque times, there were several sculptors who painted. Few painters who sculpted. Interesting, right? There were several sculptors who painted. A few sculptors who sculpted. He's talking about great sculptures, right? Michelangelo was a sculptor and painter. Da Vinci was he was a scientist and he was everything, and he was not a sculptor, right? He was a painter. In the 19th century, a handful of great painters made sculpture, which seriously affected the history of art. In the 20th century, only a few of the leading sculptors have painted, but most of the leading painters have tried their hand at sculpture. This is true. All the artists in the 20th century tried sculpture, but they are not called sculpture. Picasso tried sculpture, but he is called a painter. But his painting looks like sculptural. His paintings are sculptural. But Tombolay's never look like sculptures. And we can never guess that he was a sculptor. But he produced so many sculptures, actually, and could be called a sculpture also. Painted, but most of the leading painters have tried their hand at sculpture. A few of those have major sculptures. A number of others have produced a handful of memorable works. Renoir, Cézanne, and Matisse. He produced very powerful sculptures. Matisse, and Degas. Degas' sculptures look like his paintings. Tombolay's sculpture, though widely admired, has been perceived as fairly marginal in his oeuvre. That perception, which surely relates to the fact that this sculpture has been fairly invisible, especially in America, is no longer tenable in the light of Nicolas del Locio's Catalogue raisonné. Catalogue raisonné is a catalog, a book that lists everything, every artwork produced by the artist. So, in terms of sheer quantity, this comes as almost as much of a surprise as Brassai's picture book of Picasso's sculpture 50 years ago. Again, Tombouly's first mature sculpture was produced at exactly the same date as his first mature painting in 1953. The quality of his output has been such that it can still be claimed that if he were known for his sculpture alone, he would still be considered an outstanding artist. Great, right? I didn't know this. Assuming that the claim is not exaggerated, it's a very remarkable one. In so much as looking at Tombouly's paintings, one would really not guess that the artist was a sculptor. Paintings by Picasso suggest again and again that this artist must be one who makes sculpture. Looking at Tombouly's painting drawings, such a thought would not enter one's head. So emphatically do they assert themselves examples of an art that is all about making marks on a flat surface, rather than as music for guitar or lute constantly conveys the feeling that it is being made by a hand plucking strings. Here is the depiction of his painting. They convey quite exceptionally the exquisite vibrancy of the relationship between the hand making the marks and the surface. They are enlivening, so that they become a celebration of the fact that making marks on a surface is what painting and drawing are. This depiction, this description is very good. It reveals the nature of Tombouly's painting. And Tombouly's works in the round look as if they could have been made by an artist, all of those whose work was in the round. Part of the aptness Tombouly's folklore allegory of the tree is that the paintings and sculpture which emerge resemble each other, hardly at all, but that both embody the same view of the world. The view revealed in the paintings and drawings has been marvelously evoked by Robert Rosenblaum, and his words are worth reprinting at length. This is what Rosenblaum says. The elbow and shoulder movements of de Kooning and Pollock are replaced by a gentler calligraphy of wrist and finger. Good. They paint by dripping paint, right? And movement of the wrist is very important. A gentler calligraphy of the wrist and finger. The raucous colliding tracks of movement give way to a more muted, whispered ambience, as if we were experiencing through many veils of memory the record of some earlier actions and thoughts that had gradually been effaced both by long exposure and by later overlay of graffiti. Indeed, though the works of Pollock and de Kooning tend to speak in the present tense of an immediacy of visual and emotional outpourings, Tombouly's canvas always speaks in a kind of layered past tense in which we recognize long ago beginnings and erasures, near invisible strata that lie below the surface like ghost memories of earlier impulses. Beautiful, perfect. This is what Tombouly is, right? Rosenblaum proceeds to relate this atmosphere to the artist's sensibility to the derelict but pulse-quickening urban environment, which also nurtured Rauschenberg, another American painter. So in the 1950s, a microcosm of infinite density, where every city world and public sign must be defaced by layer after layer of random scribbles. And here, within this Lascaux of the 20th century, Lascaux, the cave paintings, pre-historic painting, right, Lascaux. This Lascaux of the 20th century, tantalizing suggestions of letters and words surface in this legible brambles, legible brambles that leave traces of lost or as unformed inscriptions. Among other triumphs of Tombouly's sensibility is the sense of seizing on an organic world of change in progress, at once rapid, attuned to the pursuit of a private impulse, of long duration, attuned to what feels like decades and centuries of public historical layering comparable to an archaeological site of multiple strata. These sculptures are quite literally often like objects from archaeological sites in form and character. They carry the scars of growth and decay, of wear and tear. They have the look of fragile things that have come through. And they have the look, too, of the residue, not of an individual, but of a culture. Even more than the paintings, because these do so more through small names than formal attributes. The sculptures fulfilled his passion for seeing the persistence of the past into the present. And passion that is evident in his conversation someplace, somewhere, is mentioned. He at one time talking about the more dramatic or bizarre moments of his history. The sculptures have the antiquity, often of Asian antiquity, in ways that the painting can't. Perhaps this is why Twombly has only rarely bothered to give them, as he often does to paintings, titles evoking ancient myths or sites. So many of his paintings are entitled, they are given mythological titles, right? People make too much of the mythological titles. For me, they are just a springboard. They are especially alive here in Italy and in Greece, but it's simply about human beings. Human emotions haven't changed much. Now he's talking about several works. We do not see the works, but let's just guess, right? Untitled, 1954, New York. Calls to mind Pan's Pipes. It's very explicitly an assemblage, standing several lengths of wood in a row. Some of them tubular bamboo canes and others square in section, adding a few nails, rather as if this were an African fetish, wrapping fabric around the sticks and painting in the whole white, the whole thing white. The sticks are irregularly spaced so that the structure suggests a stockade. The palpably humble materials and the impoverished, even ransackle carpentry look back to Schwitters, another Cubist painters, Schwitters, and forward to Arte Povera, Italian art movement. There is an interaction between tenderness and toughness, signifying the arrival of formidable sculpture. Untitled 59, Rome, is a more architecturally open version of the past image. This could have been a tidy operation, but achieved an artifact no less poetic than the first, as well as still more beautiful, with a wonderful interplay between regularity and irregularity. Well, I'll skip to next work. Untitled 1983, Rome, is a thick vertical stalk embedded in a small mass of clay with a more slender, pliable near the top and running down most of its length. Besides looking like a plant, insect, and musical instrument, these constructions almost compulsively read the figure, woman, probably because of experience in looking at figures by Giacometti, right? Because Giacometti, note the size of the feet. What is amazing about this very simple linear work is that it is not just the schema for a figure. In some mysterious way, the two verticals combine to the presence of a flesh and blood entity with a very particular stance, as particular as that of one of the possible versions of Venus as against another. Very interesting, right? It looks like it reminds us of Venus. And I'll skip the next work and next page, second paragraph. This is the work. This is the work, right? We have just seen. Winter's Passage, Luxor, 1985. Porto Ercole is presumably a dual salute to Giacometti pieces on a similar scale. On the one hand, to the surrealist constructions such as Point to the Eye, 1932. Unfortunately, we don't see the Giacometti's work, Point to the Eye, 1932. On the other hand, to every particular figurative work, Walking Quickly Under the Rain, 1949. So look at this. Giacometti's works done about 30 years ago, right? More than 30 years ago, right? Walking Quickly Under the Rain. And Tombli's work was done in 1985. Giacometti's figurine, bending forward as he strides along a laid platform with space sandwiched between the layer, is reducing the Tombli to a simple stick just over a foot in length, set at an angle of about 65 degrees. Right here, right? Like. Only here, the top of the layered platform is not horizontal but a concave, right? Here, concave, right? Like this. Concave. A concave that is evocative of boat, perhaps a felucca, right? Felucca, ship, boat, right? The walking figure thus becomes a boatman, as this looks like a human, or this boatman is at once both his own image and the image of the paddle or a pole. All right? It looks like a pole or a paddle or a human figure, right? But that is not all. When we look at the piece from the other side, and the angle of stick to the horizontal is not 60 degrees, but 120 degrees. If you look at from another angle, it's different, right? The stick becomes masked, right? It becomes masked. Such questions of imagery, though, are secondary. That's not important. What is more important is, what is primary is that where the stick's angle is acute, there is a feeling of serene onward movement, right? Onward movement. Where it is obtuse, a feeling of uncanny stillness. So this is the characteristics. You can both have the feeling of movement and stillness in Giacometti's, in Tombli's work, both in painting and in sculptures, right? By comparison, the man walking in the rain is prose. This is a high praise. He praises highly. He praises Tombli highly, more highly than Giacometti, right? And there is the by the Ionian Sea, 1986, Naples, seems the development of the both theme in Winter's Passage Luxor. I have illustration here, but it's different one. Here, the crucial concave shape is more deeply curved and serves the support for sort of roof, a battered quadrilateral slab. The corner of this holds up one end of a tapered plank which projects beyond the sculpture and rests on the ground, looking very like an oar. This is the most asymmetrical of Tombli's sculptures, the most rocky and violent in its rhythms, the most romantic in mood. The positioning of the slab is one of those great moments in art when the placing and angling of a floating form has an inevitability that is shocking. Okay, I'll skip to the next page. 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph. The frequent echoes on page 507. The frequent echoes of Giacometti and Medardo Rossi detract no more than the insolent originality of Tombli's sculptures, than echoes of de Kooning and Pollock detract from that of his paintings. The originality resides in an acute awareness of how little an artist can dare to do in the course of creating great art. This is true. You think a great artist has always to create new work? That's not possible, impossible. I said Turner was the forerunner of modernist painting, but in fact, Turner was Turner's painting is second-hand work compared with the French painter. Hmm? If you compare them, you see that there is a direct influence. I think Picasso and Braque also made use of the Cubist ideas. He got the ideas from Cézanne painting. Hmm? And American painter Arthur Gorky, he is probably one of the greatest painters in America. And he takes a lot from Cézanne, Picasso, Miro, and everything. But still, his works are original, right? Even though they originate from other writers' work. Good, right? So, by comparison, okay. The originality resides in an acute awareness of how little an artist can dare to do in the course of creating great art. Some cursory scribbles scattered across the surface of canvas can invest with life and balance and light, as in Tomblay's work. A few lengths of wood put together with seeming carelessness and painted white can present a construction vibrant with life and balance and light, as you see in Tomblay's sculptures, right? Tomblay does as little as possible. The reductiveness is not didactic, as it is with John Cage when he induces us to look at nuances that are usually overlooked. John Cage, have you listened to John Cage music? Right? Nothing, just silence. And we are supposed to expect music, but nothing comes. Are very silent, right? Okay, John Cage. It is more like the economy of effort of an athlete, an economy partly instinctive, partly learned, the economy of the tennis and squash player who turns to his own advantage, the speed his opponent has imparted the ball. Tomblay cultivates a garden where the spade work has been done by others. Good metaphor, right? Others has done the garden work and he just used it. Giacometti and Rosso are not so much influenced as sources for finds, archaeological sites. When Tomblay take Giacometti's walking figurine, reduce it to a single slant piece of wood, as we have just seen above, he gives it still greater momentum than his prototype, than Giacometti's work. His art is a shorthand whose signs call to mind existing images created by others, which are loaded with meanings often rooted in mythologies. Like Yeats and T.S. Eliot. If you read T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, you see so many references. Right? If you read Yeats's plays and poems, you see a lot of mythological figures here. Right, like that. Wonderful, right? That he probably intends and meanings we see in that he probably doesn't. I ran into Tomblay at the Mondrian exhibition at MoMA in 1994. Right? He met on the street. He met Tomblay. David Sylvester met Tomblay on the street. And in 1994, which he had come up from Lexington to see, he said, I've always felt I'd have liked to have been Picasso. Right? I wish I had been Picasso all the time. But today I feel I wish to be Mondrian. Contradictory, but which is not contradictory at all. His capacity for taking pleasure is laid back yet keen. His senses alert to what anything around him may offer. His mind curious as to what layers of human experience underlie what is going on here. now. He says he can, like any art or any place, if he gives it enough attention. Right. You can. He says too that landscape is what he likes. What he likes looking at most. He liked landscapes most. And that this is why he has lately been spending 4 months each year in Virginia. He was born. It must be born in Virginia. And in his works, there are works with titles Virginia, several paintings. And architecture comes next. Very interesting, right? Not sculptures, right? Architecture comes next, then painting. I asked him, where he placed sculpture? He said it was part of architecture. Interesting. Architecture, not sculpture. He is one of nature toyists. Right? I need to put them better. Right? It was not surprising that the French critic, theorist, concluded its peerless essay with lines from the Te Ching, introduced thus: Tombury's art, and in this consists its ethics, its great historical singularity. Does not grasp at anything. It is situated, it floats, drifts between desire, which in subtle fashion guides the hand politeness, which is the discreet refusal of any captivating ambition. Beautiful, right? Poetic, right? It must be in French, but the translation is beautiful, right? Right. Its ethics, its great historical singularity consists in this: does not grasp at anything. It is situated, it floats, it drifts between desire, which in subtle fashion guides the hand in politeness, which is direct, discreet refusal of any captivating ambition. But it may be that Tombury's world has less affinity to the Te Ching than to the writings of Chongzha, which are area, more metaphorical, more haunted by life's transience, more capricious, more willfully paradoxical, more preoccupied with making all things equal. Good. Now you come to like Sylvester. Okay. Tombury had a professional athlete as a father. Oh, his father was an athlete, right? The athlete knows he should never grab at the ball, knows how to let it come to him, how to keep his balance when it arrives. He knows when to push and when to yield, when to stiffen and when to relax, when to control, when to let alone. He knows that his efforts are useless unless his timing occurs with rhythms on a bigger scale than his own, that he has to play with the time, like Tombury's, right? Living, looking, making. Tombury seems to be someone for whom there is no break between these. There is no difference between receiving and giving. Each is as generous as the other and as amused. Playing with the tide is a matter of getting his rhythm right without caring whether it is coming in or going out. Wonderful. Now, probably you are ready to appreciate Tombury's paintings. On Wednesday, I'm going to show many of the Tombury's paintings, and I don't think you have ever seen them. And now you can understand modernist paintings, right? Okay. I hope so. Okay.